Hello, welcome to day 2 of the journey to teaching, or whatever I did call it. I've named it now. Oh dear. Though it's not final because it's still private, and it will be until I get a job next year. However, yesterday, so it's the morning again, it's not quite as early as it was yesterday, because I don't plan on going for a run today. I've gone for 2 days in a row, and I've started skipping as well, and I was really feeling it in my calves yesterday, so I'm just going for a nice walk this morning instead of a run, which I think is better. But yes, yesterday, this isn't teaching related, but I had some car trouble after I stopped recording because I had the heating on in the car, but the engine off, so it ran the battery down, so I had to go and get that jump started before teacher training. So teacher training yesterday, we had an introductory video that we were going to be shown on a Zoom call, but they couldn't get the sound to work, so they sent it to us. It took a while for it to upload and then they could send it, but it got done eventually. After which there was nothing until 2:30, apart from at some point late in the day. It was early afternoon, I think sort of just past 12 maybe. I was sent the secondary handbook, which is something that the Norfolk Teacher Training Centre put together for this year. I think they've just sort of took the previous years and changed a few of the dates and put in a couple COVID statements. But I got sent that I had to read, which is 97 pages long, something like that. So I started reading that, and I was reading that when the Zoom call started at 2:30. The Zoom call's meant to last an hour, 2:30 till 3:30, and over the Zoom call there wasn't much of use that I found. It was mostly a bunch of nonsense, really. There was the think, pair, share exercise that they said for teachers is a good way to occasionally get pupils, not students, to think about things. Pupils, not students, being, as I'll be teaching secondary school, we refer to them as pupils, even though they are technically students, because the term students confuses with higher education, like universities and stuff. But I think that that's stupid. But ignoring that, the think, pair, share is, rather than just regurgitate information for the students to memorize and then regurgitate themselves in the exam, you ask them a question, tell them to think about it for 30 seconds, a minute, whatever. Then you get them to pair up and discuss what they thought of. And then, as a pair, they can share to the classroom and potentially have an open discussion, or just make a list of all the ideas that have come up. I personally think that think, share, pair might work better, because if you think about it, then you share it, then you pair up to discuss a group discussion. I think you're more likely to come to a better conclusion of your own. But it got me thinking about that at any rate, which is good. And then there was just a lot of rhetorical questions being asked to the group, and I will admit that I think it was very poorly organised. Like the Zoom call in the morning didn't work because the video had no sound. In the Zoom call was poor because it was about, 10-15 minutes late it started, and it didn't work. I feel like they should test these things, but they're getting used to Zoom, I suppose, so there's bound to be some technical difficulties. It's just the teaching aspect, very, very poor show, because they didn't actually give us any useful information during that Zoom call. It probably comes from the fact that I have just finished university, where it's all about, like, here's the information. Well, at least for me it was. as a philosophy student. It was all, here's the information, do with it what you will, and we'll mark regarding whether we think that was useful or not. They don't tell you all the information, you've got to do the research. But lectures were, here's the information, rather than here's things that you've probably already done to do. Yeah, I'm hoping I don't run into anyone. Because I know there are dog walkers about at this time, and this is a very popular dog walking route, but it's also very scenic. Yes, so I didn't find that very useful, but I did finish all of the tasks yesterday, including reading that book. I got most of it printed, which broke my granddad's printer a few times. Like, the paper got stuck, it wouldn't pick up bits of paper, something fell off, and it's still off, but the printer did work last time we tried it, so fingers crossed. And then, on top of that, I've got a couple of calendars printed out now. I've looked through a bunch of things, read that whole book. It was practically as pointless as the Zoom call for the most part, but there were some very useful sections, such as page number 17. I don't remember what was on it, but I remember that particular page was useful. That one I printed in colour because there was colour-coded stuff, so I used a different printer for that one. And then the rest of it, there's some tables towards the end, and there's some worksheet-like things. So that stuff is going to be useful to have. But then a lot of it was also just, we are the Norfolk Teacher Training Centre, and you are a student, and you will be at a school, and you can expect, there's a horse back there, but you can expect various things from all of us, and we expect things from you, and here's what those things are, which if you just use your brain, you can probably tell most of them to begin with, because it's just simple. I'm going to take this off, my head's getting quite warm. Earphones. But yes, the booklet, but no, I did all of yesterday's like at-home individual study tasks. I did all of today's individual studies tasks yesterday. Hello, slug. I did one of either tomorrow or Thursday's individual study tasks, and that leaves a few individual study tasks left to do. One I'm doing today is for Thursday, which is complete the subject knowledge audit, which is effectively just to see how much do you know about the subject that you're going to be teaching. And so I will be going through that. I've just got to look up how to complete it, because I don't understand really from the document that they've given me. It's got a list of topics on it, which that much I can pretty much understand. You know what, I'll go this way. The part that I struggle to understand is where they have R1, R2, R3 in like lines, and I just don't get it, really. So I will Google it, and hopefully that can give me some answers. And that's what I'm going to do this morning, because there is no 9 a.m. Zoom call today. There's only the one at 2:30, and the at-home study things, as far as I'm aware. Though it wouldn't surprise me if there was more, and they just have failed to tell me. I'm also hoping to find out what school I'm going to today, like what school I'm going to next week. I'm hoping to find out today, because I haven't found out yet. But they said some people getting notified yesterday. I was not, and so in theory a few more should today. I'm really hoping to be one of those, but I'm glad that I'm not the only one who doesn't know, because someone else asked about it in the Zoom call yesterday. I also want to try and fix an issue with my microphone and camera on Zoom calls, because when I'm testing them, they work perfectly fine. Oh, there's a runner. Bollocks. Oh well, I guess I'll just vlog past the runner. But yes, when I test them on Zoom or Skype or whatever, they work. If I test them on OBS, they work. However, I joined the Zoom call and my camera wouldn't work, and I know they want the cameras on to monitor actual attendance, so I was like, oh, I've got to fix this. But I did put in the chat like it doesn't work. So I unplugged it and I plugged it back in again, and that made it work. So that's good. And then my microphone wouldn't work. But I didn't want to get up because I've got to go round my desk to unplug and plug it back in again. So yeah, I'm probably going to send them an email just saying, by the way, doesn't seem to be working. But I will try and figure it out. Just so that way I don't get told off for like attendance but not participation, as might happen. And then I think today's call is on the teaching standards, but I'm not 100% sure. And there's either 8 or 12 teachers' standards, which are what I primarily get summatively assessed on at the end of my course. So they are really important. I need to memorize them. I need to be able to justify all of my actions to those standards. But currently I don't have any of them memorized. I've written them all down, I've copied them all out on both paper and like text Word document type deal. I've read through them 4 or 5 times, but none of it's sunk in. So I'm gonna have to really focus on that. That is a nice view. And then, yeah, the only other thing that was really useful yesterday was the at-home tasks that I did really quickly. One of them was find inspirational quotes, which was absolutely stupid task, completely useless, but I did it anyway. And I found 3. None of them are inspirational, apart from one, which isn't about teaching, because they're inspirational quotes about teaching. It's actually about learning, and it's about learning martial arts, and it's from an anime. So I think that one will take some explaining. That's the only one that actually inspires me at all. And the main reason it inspires me is because I know the context around it in the show. But I think that if you look at it without that context, it's a bit iffy. So what I have to do is say, like, the quote is something along the lines of, any fighter knows that to study the path of martial arts, one must first practice the art of imitation, or something like that. But, like, that goes for not just martial arts, that goes for everything. The way that we learn to speak is we imitate other people speaking until we get to the point where we understand what they're saying and they can actively teach us. And then, if I remember correctly, the teaching is like, no, it's not pronounced water, it's pronounced water. Water. Can you say water? Water! Yes, that's right, water. As opposed to, like, just working it out. Because you can't with language. And there are various other things where the same is true for. For example, learning mathematical methods of doing sums. Imitation's the best way. This is going to be a long video. Because, yes, like, once they've explained how it works, you could, in theory, work it out for yourself. However, that is way harder for the teacher to explain how it works in enough detail, another great view, for you to be able to work it out for yourself, than it is to just explain it briefly enough that you understand what they mean when they tell you, here's how you do it, and then you do it. Right, I'm going to have to put the phone down. I've got to tie my jacket. Look at the sky. It's another great view. I'm not much of a morning person, but you do get some good views. There we go. So, as I was saying, yes, you got to practice the art of imitation in order to learn. So I've got that quote from Kenichi Shirahama imitating Akasami Kootsuji in the anime based off the manga called Kenichi History's Ultimate Disciple, originally written in Japanese by, I can't remember their name, there's a M and a Y, I think, but yeah, I've got that in my text document for yesterday's tasks. That wasn't super useful. The other two tasks, one of which was read through a 10 Commandments for Trainee Teachers document and think of what you would add. And again, it was mostly just common sense stuff like appear professional, don't be mean, all that sort of stuff. I don't see why they bother making us read this stuff rather than just say, use your brain. But again, that's just how it is. Oh, looks like I had a halo briefly there. So yeah, that's how it is. So that's how it is. But what would you add? So, having spread out the use your brain into 10 different rules, they allow the addition of one. And I was like, okay, well, either I go for something super specific here, because the use your brain principle pretty much covered everything they've said, or everything they've said pretty much covered the use your brain, or I have to go for something super vague, so vague that it encompasses everything else. And if I'm not mistaken, the thing was have fun outside of teaching. Don't lose who you are and just become a teacher. You are a person and a teacher. You do not live to work, you work as part of life. You don't work to live, because you couldn't do it without like a job. You may be poor, you may be a criminal. I would argue that being a criminal is a job, but if you do it full time, oh, beautiful. But yeah, that was mine. Maintain interests outside of work. And a lot of people struggle with that, because in the current situation, oh no, my thing's come undone, it's awkward. Not my flyers, my jacket, so I've tied it around my waist. But no, the main thing with the current situation in the world is everyone wants to make money. So if they find something they enjoy, they're like, how can I make money out of this? Because I enjoy it. So that way, if I can make a living out of doing this, then work won't really be work. A lot of times that is the case. If you look at Mike Hurley of Relay FM, or I suppose sort of like footballers, yes, they put in a lot of work hours, a lot of time, and it's not their relaxation activity anymore. But they still enjoy it, which is the main thing. But sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes you take the thing you love and you strangle it to death by trying to get money out of it. And then you hate it. You've got the money out of it, but you've taken something you love and you've killed that love for it. And my jacket just keeps coming undone. Maybe if I tie it a little higher, I'll get a little better result. Who knows? I should probably do it double rather than a single, but whatever. So the teachers, very rarely does someone teach before becoming a teacher of any sort. They might become like an assistant or something, like a TA, but I don't think many people get the opportunity of being like full-time teacher before going through the process of getting the qualification, which is real shame. You should have a try before you buy on careers. I suppose that's what apprenticeships are. But I reckon once you're in an apprenticeship, you are legally obligated to finish it. Which again, stupid. But I have my interests outside of teaching. There's Dungeons and Dragons, there's Kung Fu, there's my business of teaching self-defense and one-day martial arts like Kung Fu. There's the interest in becoming a, amateur pro, semi-pro, whatever, MMA fighter, or trying it anyway. Try the amateur, see what I think. I'm not gonna, just dive in. I want to see what I think in the cage, or the ring, the octagon, whatever. And I want to start picking up more martial arts. Then there's a bunch of philosophy stuff, meditations, etc. I think there's a woodpecker. Sounds like it anyway. Oh god, there's no one there's no one nearby in the field. There might be some people way over there, but I can't be sure at this distance. Oh, that's a nice smell. Hello, pigeons. So I've got all of those interests, and yes, I do hope to eventually start a self-defense club at the school. I'll have to read through their health and safety insurance and all that sort of stuff. But if I could start one of those, I'll have to make a syllabus for it, a self-defense syllabus, because they will be group classes rather than individual classes, which is okay, because I will be used to teaching non-physical activities in class by that point. However, self-defense is really hard to teach as a group activity, in my opinion, because as far as I'm concerned, the best way to learn self-defense is to have to defend yourself. And you can do that in group activities, and then the instructor is more of a supervisor after the very, very beginning. But, again, this is going to be in a school, these are going to be kids of 12 to 16. So as juniors, and being in a school, I don't think I'll be allowed to encourage sparring. Right, I'm just going to put my jacket back on. It's going to be too hot, but I've already been going for 22, 23 minutes. I don't want to slow down more. Yeah, so the goal would be to make up a little syllabusy thing saying, okay, here's session 1, we're going to be doing punching, we're going to do alternate punch block drills, some people with pads on, some people just with gloves on, so you punch the pads, here's jab cross, you can't rely on being able to get both off. However, here's some situations where you can use the jab as a distraction, or turn the jab into a push to get the guard out of the way to hit with a cross. Don't do any of this at home. Obviously, this is to be used for self-defense only. But for the most part, I think it'll be falling practice. That will be the main thing for the first term, with the occasional kick, punch, whatever thrown in, probably against air. And then, once they've got the grips of falling, can move on to trips, throws, locks, etc. But they're all going to have to be very sensible. They're going to have parental permission stuff that they're going to have signed, and all that. However, I think that'll do for today's journey to teaching, day 2. The only other things really worth mentioning, there are people over there, are that they've relaxed a few requirements. Usually I would be required to do a minimum of 120 days of teaching, or time in schools. I would need to cover at least 4 year groups, 2 key stages, one of which having to be transitionary. So I'd have to cover a year group. Like, I don't remember, I think it'd be like year 9 and year 10. So year 9 is the end of key stage 3, year 10 is the start of key stage 4. I'd have to do both sides of that. So preparing for the one above and starting the new key stage as opposed to the old key stage, even though, in my experience, they weren't that different. It's just you get marked harsher. That's about it, really. If you have more specific tasks, you get marked harsher. Hopefully, today I will learn some actually useful information in the Zoom call this afternoon. Until then, I've got to figure out this subject knowledge audit and practice my martial art abilities and fitness, whilst not exerting myself too much. I've still got to do my 3-minute skipping, my stretching, and some forms, but I think today is mostly going to be maybe light exercise, like for the lower back, glutes, etc. And yeah. Right. Before this gets to half an hour, I will go. And as I said yesterday, I'll catch you cats.